but acknowledge that it exists and that we have to do something about it, because nowadays you find that because we don't acknowledge and deal with the issue in the church, then now you're seeing more homosexual churches being built where not only is the pastor homosexual, but everybody in the congregation is homosexual because they just feel more comfortable. They want to worship. They believe in God. And to be honest, I feel as if a lot of those people who are drawn to them type of churches, they want to be delivered. But because there's no sense of connection between them and acceptance in the congregation and with the pastor, they're going to go somewhere else where they feel accepted and at the same time can worship and not be judged every time they walk into the church.
And it's scary, because when you see the churches coming up and you see that everybody in there just about is living that alternative lifestyle, you know it doesn't line up with the Word of God. It's scary because it's like you just have literally a house of sin. There's no deliverance is going to happen. You know, you want to be accepted, and we're accepted among our peers, but if we're all living in sin, where does deliverance come from? You know, who's going to speak into my life? Who's going to encourage me and you know, cause me to, you know, to change or to see myself in the situation for what it really is? And that's really the scary part. So again, going back to the church, I interviewed a young man a couple days ago, and he is presently in that lifestyle, and he goes to church, and I just asked him, you know, how did you get to this point, as far as just your relationship, as far as how do you feel like you're saved, when you come to church, how do you feel? And he basically told me, you know, when I come to church, I feel good about myself. When I come to church, I love God, I know God loves me. And he said, you know, just to get away from all the stereotypes or the stigmas or all the, what's the term he used? Basically saying how most people say how things happen is that most people had to be molested or they had to be raped or something had to happen in order to get them to this point. And he said he never went through that before. You know, he said I had, you know, two parents that were there for me. Both of them were in ministry. I grew up in the church. I had a very loving family. From 6 or 7 years old, I knew that I found myself attracted to little boys at 6 and 7 years old. And, you know, and I'm standing, I'm looking at him because this is like the most conversation I've ever had with a homosexual person. And, of course, having grown up with all those same, oh, well, he must have been raped or somebody must have done something to him. It's like he dispelled all of that in like 5 seconds. So it's like, okay, now he's back to 6 or 7 years old. Well, how can you say that this person wasn't having these feelings at 6 and 7? I mean, this is the first and second grader that is attracted to little boys. You know, and it took him to become a grown man to finally admit, you know, to his family. He said, I dated women, I went out with several women, but it just was not there. I tried it. I tried to do what is right. I know that it's not right. But now I've met someone, we've been together for, you know, X amount of years. It's been a long time, and I care for this person. I know this person cares for me, and we love God. We want to come to church. And he said during this couple of years, he's been in churches, and they literally told him, we don't want you here. You don't belong here. Somebody told him to go jump in a river, you know. And I'm saying, wow. He said, and I came to this one church that I'm presently attending, and I let the pastor know. The pastor, you know, welcomed me, made me feel very comfortable, and basically said, we're going to love you out of your mess. You know, you're welcome here. And he was saying that did so much for him to know that I know that my pastor cares about me. I know that he knows the situation, but he's standing in the gap for me. I can call him and talk to him, not about I'm trying to make my relationship work, you know what I mean? But I can talk to him even with him knowing my situation and not feel like I can't go to my pastor. So, you know, to me that was strong, but it's sad because even in the same church, you have the pastor accepting, but then he had members in the body, you know, which he didn't name any names. I wouldn't say it anyway, but he had people come to him in the church where your pastor accepted him, but the people actually told him, you don't need to be here. You don't belong here. And so to me, I admired him because it took courage. Because even though my pastor accepted me, that's one person. The body is many. And so when you have different people in the body that are running to try to tell on you or to start rumors or telling you you don't belong here, for you to still hold your head up high, you know, put your shoulders back and still walk in and still worship God, to me that's powerful. And like I told him, you know, one word from God could change your life forever. And I think we as Christians have to realize that it's not for us to change the person. We can't change them. Only God can do that. We just need to do our part as far as loving on them, you know, and just encouraging them. So.
But I think even still, even though the pastor is accepting of his life, you know,
right.
the person, if you have church members who are making comments of this nature to that person, I just feel that they, like the church, we're so accepting of certain behaviors in the church that we don't address it, so the person feels as if it's okay to continue on with that type of behavior. But I think at that point, if something like, and I'm not the type of person that'll tell, but when you're talking about someone's salvation and their relationship with God, and, you know, potentially starting confusion and chaos in the church, that at that point, I know me as a person, that I would go and I would address that issue with the pastor. And me personally, I would even address that to the congregation. Because if said enough, if the person isn't as strong as this individual, they would end up leaving. We would never know why. And God forbid something tragically happens to that person because of what one person said. So I think that when things run rampant like that in the church, to keep it all the confusion and chaos with this particular subject matter anyway, is to let the church know where you, as pastors, know where you stand at with this particular issue. And that if you have church members that are having a hard time accepting it, or they have an issue with it, then maybe it's not this person who's dealing with the issue of homosexuality that I need to sit down and talk to, but the other person. Because I know you have a lot of pastors today that are considered inclusionist, which means they're accepting of the whole aspect of homosexuality, even the behavior in the church. So some people may take it as if, okay, if the pastor agrees, then he agrees with everything. And when that gets out, he just needs to address it, because some people just don't understand. They don't. They just take what they hear from other people and run with it, and just believe whatever they hear. But that's why I say communication is so important in the church, regardless of what topic it is, because we all come from different walks of life, even different denominations. Because believe you me, everybody in that church were not, at some point, they were some other denomination besides a non-denominational category. So there's so many different teachings in so many different churches that regardless of what the pastor get up there and say, you're still going to hold on to beliefs that you were taught before. So that can pose an issue as well, when everybody believes something different in this church that they're now in.
Do you want to say something?
Yes. I just want to ask you guys, what would you say to those who are dealing with this issue and they want to be delivered? They're in church. They want to be a part of church. They want to do praise and worship. They want to do whatever it is to be involved in the church. But some way the leaders find out and they're sat down. How should that individual handle a situation? You know, I don't know, like, how do you feel about that? Like, is it their job to sit this individual down, or is it their job to let this individual continue to just be a part, you know, of the church and continue to do, or I don't know, like, what would you say to that?
My personal feeling on it is not just homosexuality, but anything that you know that you are willfully sinning in. And if you're practicing that, you're willfully doing it. It's not like, oh, you know, this happened and I asked God for forgiveness and I'm not going to do it anymore. But if you wake up every day and you continue in this lifestyle day by day, whether it's homosexuality, whether it's fornication, whether you're on drugs, all these different things that you're doing, to me, you should be set down. But you shouldn't just be set down. You should have someone that you're accountable to, that checks on you, that not call you once every 6 months, but someone that can be there to encourage you, to call you, to check on you. Even if they have to, let's meet for lunch or something, to speak life into you. Not just sit you down and leave you in a corner, and especially when you have giftings and talents, because no matter what people are doing, no matter what type of lifestyle, if you love to sing, you love to sing. Whether you're homosexuality, whether I'm fornicating, whether I'm on drugs, if I like to sing, I like to sing. So when I